have got some mud in our intake tube. We've gotten mud splashed down in here. And that's the key here. Nice and controlled so it's not going ping. There are no flat spots that I've been able to see. And again, I'm over 1,600 miles with mud because their CVT system is just superior to everyone else's. We've got a little goodie in here to put in. Well, I'm finally getting a chance to work on some of my own stuff today. I got the Rmax in here because I am over 1,600 miles. I might be getting closer to 1,700 now. Let me look real quick. Yeah, 1,658. But I have yet to service my sheaves, so I'm a little past due. Between 12 and 1,600 miles is when you're supposed to service these, and I've been so busy I haven't got a chance to, so I'm digging in that today. This isn't going to be a big how-to video on what to do because there's videos out there that already show that in great detail, but I wanted to show you guys what kind of condition my sheaves were in. And also, we've got a little goodie in here to put in. That's right, a performance sheave from JBS. Greg bought me this as payment for working on something. It's probably not something I would have bought myself because I honestly don't know if the Rmax actually needs a performance sheave. But the nice thing is, now we'll be able to find out if it makes a big enough difference in the Rmax to see if it warrants buying one. So we got that, we're gonna put in, and we'll see what kind of condition my sheaves are in. Which it might be surprising because you can see here, we have got some mud in our intake tube. We've gotten mud splashed down in here from our exhaust tube. I'm sure this down here is from it getting in here. If you remember, I think shortly after getting this, that trip I had to Rock Run where I got in all that deep mud and water and actually got it deep enough. I stalled this thing and I thought, oh no, we got the X4 all over again.
Ow! There's draggers all through that.
Uh-oh.
Did you shut it off?
No, it stalled.
Oh!
That's impressive. That's impressive. I've never cleaned this since then, so it's probably been a ticking time bomb me not doing that. But because I obviously got some mud in it, so we'll see what kind of shape it's in. I've had no slippage, no performance issues that I could tell, but we definitely got some mud in there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart, take my sheaves out, and we'll take a look and see how they are. All right, we got into everything, and yeah, you can definitely tell I got into some mud. It's not awful looking at this. You can see here we had some run down here. The inside is actually not too bad, and we'll have to wait till we get our sheaves out to take a look at stuff in there. But if we look at the outer CVT case there, you can really see the mud got in. But the design of this does a good job at keeping it away from your sheaves. You can see it kind of came down and ran around the edge. Of course, everything would have been spinning down to your drain plug. And then I'm sure the fans on the drive, this was picked up by the fins on the drive sheave and kind of flung it around a little bit. But we'll clean all this up. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull the sheaves off so we can take a look and see how dirty they got. Especially our driven side, to see if it's all caked up with mud and grime to where it's not sliding like it should. But like I said, when I first put this in that one mud hole, or that one water hole, there wasn't much mud, but it was water, full of water. I definitely had some belt slippage when I came out of that, but it dried up and it's been fine ever since. And you guys know from watching my videos, we've done performance tests. We've done 0 to 30 launches out the door, you know, so performance-wise, I haven't noticed any difference, but maybe that's just because it's been caked up for so long. I'll clean all this up and get my performance back, but let's pull them and we'll find out. All right, so now that I'm in here, we've got a little bit more mud in here than I originally thought. Let's take a look. So you can just look at how plastered it is, our case is behind where our primary sheave is there. or our drive sheave. It is absolute, or I'm sorry, this would be our driven sheave here. This is the primary, it's off the motor. This is our secondary or driven sheave. Either you got your primary sheave, it's off the motor, your secondary sheave, otherwise known as the drive and the driven. So yeah, there's quite a bit of mud. And if you look here into our intake tube, I know the lighting's poor, but I've actually been getting a good stream in our intake tube. Now I'm gonna have to check and see if my connections up in here are loose, or is it simply the fact that I'm splashing in the mud enough to get mud and water in our intake here and under the hood. That is quite possible, because I mean, I get some, but this right here is where your CVT intake is, so not a lot. So chances are, if I'm getting that much in our CVT intake, I got a stream, that I've got a loose connection or something up here in them. So we're gonna check those out before we button everything up and make sure those are tight. But anyway, I clean all this up. Looking at our sheaves here, of course, you can see, as rusted as this is, yeah, I've had quite a bit of water in there for a while. Shame on me for not doing this sooner, but again, I've been busy, you know, opening up the new shop and stuff. Hadn't had time to service my own machines because I've been busy. But when I had this separated to take the belt out, there's quite a bit of crud in there too, so we're gonna have to check our slider pins in there. The surface of our fixed sheave on our primary isn't grooved. You can see where the belt rides for extended periods. That kind of gives these marks, so you can kind of see the RPM ranges where I mostly run. But no big grooves or nicks. And this guy here is pretty dirty. Of course, we're gonna open this up. We don't have to worry about cleaning everything up because I'm putting the new sheave in. It's down there, so that'll save me a little bit of work. But let's go ahead and take apart our secondary, clean it up, and see how bad it is. I don't think I ever showed you guys this. This is my fancy homemade tool for taking apart the secondary sheave. It works not only for the Rmaxes and the Yamahas, but for other machines too. It took me maybe 10 minutes to whip this up and probably have 10 bucks in material. So it works. I'll show you here once I get her in the vise. So there you can see I just put the tool in the vise, and then I have my two arms on here that are wider than this nut. We got to back off, and we just snug this up to push on this a little bit. You're not pushing down to try to drive the spring down, because this actually sits on the collar in there, so it won't drive down. But you just put it down to hold that, and then you can take and slowly back this nut off, and then slowly loosen this, and it'll gently back the spring out. All right, I will show you how this works. I've taken and just tapped this loose by taking a punch and tapping this way. So now I have this nut loose here. You can see it comes off. And now the point of this is to slowly back this spring and collar off without having it go flying. So now I can just take and work this, and it slowly backs the spring off, controlled, and that's the key here. Nice and controlled, so it's not going ping and slapping you in the face. Alrighty, there's our collar, there's our spring. Now this, look at the grime in here. I'm probably gonna need two hands to get this apart. Hey, alright, as I got the collar off here, you can see the grease, there really is not much left in here. Now luckily, I'm not seeing a whole lot of signs of wear, which is very good. I'm gonna pull these pins out, we'll take a look at those. And once we get this cleaned up, we can take a look and see what our wear is. Alright, so despite all the mud and stuff, as you can see there by the shiny, very, very little wear on this secondary sheave there where the slider pins ride in 1,600 miles. So grease is doing its job, and that's why Yamaha has the 10-year belt warranty and stuff. because their CVT system is just superior to everyone else's. That is very, very little wear, which is excellent. I'll have to finish cleaning this up a little better, but I just cleaned it up enough so you guys could see all the more wear we had on there. So that's pretty awesome. All right, I got the secondary all back in place and bolted in. I got the fixed of the primary cleaned up and put back in place. So let's tear into the sliding side of our primary and see how much dirt and grime we got in there in 1,600 miles. It's pretty dusty riding. All right, so I got everything cleaned up, and I'm pleasantly surprised with the shape of the wear on the components of a primary sheave. Even as much mud as I had in there, everything looks great. You can see here that, yeah, they're polished a little bit where the sliders run, but it's not grooved. Our edges look good, so that's a good sign. All of the sliders look great. There are no flat spots that I've been able to see, and again, I'm over 1,600 miles with mud in my clutch and no flat spotting whatsoever, so that is good. Now you can see here I got the performance sheave and the stock sheave side by side, and it's kind of hard to see any differences between the two to look at them. The only way you can really see any difference is to get down here. I know the camera is not going to pick it up, but I can feel there is a little lip here at the top and a little lip here at the bottom, which kind of limits the travel. And with the performance sheaves, you eliminate that. So yeah, that's maybe a couple 1/16 of an inch extra travel, what allows your belt to move. But that little bit of extra movement when it's going through the gearing and your secondary sheave makes a noticeable difference in your low end and your top end, your bottom end and your top end. So that's the main advantage of running a performance sheave. Now, like I said, is it enough of a difference in the Rmax to really be worth it? Because there really isn't much here left if the belt doesn't travel. Yamaha did a good job refining the sheaves of the 850 Wolverine for the 1000 to give it a little bit more movement for that extra power and extra bottom and top end. But like I said, that little bit we get with the performance sheave might be enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and put all this back together with the performance sheave, get it back in the buggy, and it's winter, everything's a slop, so I really can't get any draggy times right now, but I can at least give you a seat of the pants feel, and then once the weather gets nice, we'll take this back to the drag strip, hook up the draggy, and see if we got an improvement with our 0 to 30 times. So let's get this guy back together and re-greased. And on the subject of grease, I know there's a big following for Tink Seal, and if you prefer to do the Tink Seal, which is the dry lube over traditional Yamaha poly grease, that's fine. I'm old-fashioned, I like grease. I tried this Tink Seal, and that was the only time I've ever had a belt slip in a Yamaha. I ran Tink Seal with a performance sheave in the X4 of mine, and the belt slipped several times. I switched to grease, I never had that problem. And again, that's just my experience, so I'm sticking with grease. If you like Tink Seal, if you've had good experience with Tink Seal, go ahead and run it. There's lots of guys out there that run it, they love it. The thing with Tink Seal though is you do have to blow out your clutches a lot more often, so that's one thing to consider. With grease, you can kind of go a little bit longer between service intervals. But on the other hand, with the Tink Seal, you don't have to completely tear apart and re-grease as often as you do with grease. Usually just blowing it out, like I said, is enough to take care of it for a while. So again, 50-50, whatever your pleasure may be. All right guys, so I just finished a quick little test drive here in the Rmax, and there are two things I noticed right away with the performance clutch. First is it engages much quicker and sooner. There's always been a little bit of hesitation with my Rmax. It'd take quite a bit of gas before it actually started to roll. Now granted, you guys saw the amount of mud I had in there. That might have played a part in it, but it's kind of always done that since new, and now it takes very little gas and the Rmax takes off. So the clutch is definitely engaging sooner, and it is a lot smoother too. It surprised me. Not that the Rmax is jerky unless you're in sport mode, but it just felt smoother. The second thing I noticed is it is quieter at cruising speed. So that's telling me that my RPMs have dropped a little bit too with that performance sheave. Maybe because it's milled down, and so the belt is riding lower with the extra travel it has. How do I want to put this? The belt is lower, riding the same speed that it used to be, riding higher. Does that make sense? But that's first two impressions I've noticed. It's engaging sooner, and it seems like my machine is running quieter, which tells me it's dropped my RPMs a little bit. Now, you guys see we still have snow, so traction isn't the best, but we've got draggy times on our road down there. So as soon as that road dries up, whether there's snow or not, I can get the draggy out. We can get the Rmax on the road and get a 0 to 30 time to compare going up that slope. And if I remember correctly, that's like a 5-degree slope. So it's a pretty good slope that we've gone up before. So anyway, guys, make sure you're not doing like I do and putting off your servicing of your clutch. That's important. You guys make sure to do that. Like I said, around 1,200 to 600 miles, you need to do that. My wear was excellent, but I've known guys that have tore their sheaves apart with less miles than that and have had to replace stuff because it's been wore so bad. It's going to depend on the kind of riding you do, the kind of conditions you do, how big of tires you're running. There's a lot of factors in there, so it's important to check. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I didn't do like a step-by-step how-to simply because of time that I had to get my machine in there and get serviced before I got customers' machines coming in. But if you guys want to see like a step-by-step how-to, although, like I said, there are good how-tos out there already, but they're not a how-to for me with my kind of flair and humor, although it tends to be a bit corny, but you guys seem to like it. Anyway, if you want to see me do a step-by-step how-to, next one I get in here, I'll see if I can get permission from the owner to do a step-by-step clutch service tutorial for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I haven't said this for a while, but keep on riding. And thanks for watching.